Welcome, movie enthusiasts, to an exciting journey through the world of cinema. Get ready for captivating storytelling, in-depth analyses, and the latest insights into your favorite films. This is MovieTrim. In 1969, New York, a gasoline tanker overturns on a highway ramp, spilling fuel into an electrical substation below ground and trapping 2 workers. Among the responding firefighters is veteran Frank Sullivan, who goes underground to rescue the workers against the direction of his commander. Despite the rising level of fuel and the sparking created by damaged electronics, Frank and another firefighter pull the workers out and escape just before a spark ignites a huge explosion. Frank returns safely home to his wife Julia and young son Johnny. In 1999, John Sullivan is an NYPD detective still living in his childhood home. His girlfriend Samantha leaves him because she believes he is emotionally shut off, the result of his father Frank dying in a fire when John was 6 years old. John's lifelong friend and neighbor Gordo stops by with his young son and finds a Heathkit single sideband ham radio that once belonged to Frank, but fails to get it working. The night before the anniversary of his father's death, John is surprised to find the radio operating during a particularly intense occurrence of the Aurora Borealis, and has a brief conversation with another man concerning the 1969 World Series, which John is able to recount in specific detail. He realizes from this and other details that he is communicating with his father on the same date in 1969 and warns him of the mistake that led to his death. Frank is alarmed and refuses to believe it, but the next day, while rescuing a runaway from a burning warehouse, he recalls John's warning and survives the fire. In 1999, John is struck with new memories of his father surviving until 1989. He and Frank reconnect, and they share details of their lives. Frank decides to quit smoking, believing John's warning that he will eventually die of lung cancer. John discovers that his present has been changed in other unexpected ways. He and Frank have inadvertently prevented the death of the Nightingale, a serial killer who originally murdered 3 nurses in the 1960s and was never caught. He has now killed 10 women, including John's own mother, Julia. To save her and the other future victims, John enlists Frank's help in stopping the Nightingale before he can kill again. Following information from John about the killings, Frank saves the first victim, but before he can rescue the second, the Nightingale subdues him, steals his driver's license, and plants it on the victim to frame Frank for the murder. When Frank relates his experience, John realizes Frank's wallet has the Nightingale's fingerprints. John asks his father to hide the wallet somewhere in the house where John can find it 30 years later. Using the preserved fingerprints from the wallet, John identifies the Nightingale as Jack Shepard, a former NYPD detective. In the original timeline, Shepard was a hospital patient under the care of Julia. When she left after learning of Frank's death, an inexperienced doctor accidentally administered a medication that caused a fatal allergic reaction. Because Frank survived, Julia was there to prevent the error, thereby saving the Nightingale's life. In 1969, Frank's close friend, and John's future boss, Detective Satch DeLeon arrests Frank on suspicion of murder. He resists, and the radio is knocked over and damaged. At the station, Frank attempts to prove his innocence to Satch by accurately predicting the course of the 1969 World Series, including the Game 5 shoe polish play. Frank escapes from the police station and breaks into Shepard's apartment, where he finds trophies from the murders. Shepard arrives and attacks Frank, who fends him off and apparently kills him after a foot chase. Satch, having realized that Frank was telling the truth, arrives at Shepard's apartment and finds the victim's jewelry, exonerating Frank. Frank returns home and repairs the radio. While talking over the radio, Frank and John are each attacked by the 1969 and 1999 versions of Shepard. Frank blows off Shepard's hand with a shotgun, and he flees. In 1999, as John fights off Shepard, the house changes rapidly around them and Shepard's hand disappears. An elderly Frank appears and kills Shepard with the same shotgun. He and John tearfully embrace. The film concludes with a softball game including John and his own little son, Samantha, now his wife and expecting a baby, Frank, Julia, Satch, and Gordo, who has become wealthy thanks to a stock tip fed to him in the past by John.